You ever think about what makes the world's biggest companies tick? Behind the flashy products and the famous CEOs, there's this invisible set of rules, kind of like a hidden operating system that's running the whole show. It dictates everything, and today we're going to pull back the curtain on it.
So let's start with a simple question. Who's really in charge of a giant corporation? You'd think it's the CEO, right? But honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The real story is so much more interesting.
Nope. The real power, the true framework for every big decision, lies in a system. It's called corporate governance. It's the whole set of rules and practices that directs and controls a company. It basically answers the age-old question, who's watching the watchers? Okay, so if it's a system of rules, where do these rules even come from? Well, it turns out there's a global standard that kind of acts as a North Star for companies all over the world.
And here it is, the OECD/G20 Principles of Corporate Governance. Just think of it as the ultimate playbook for running a company the right way. Now here's the catch. It's not actually a law, but, and this is the key, its influence is huge. Why? Because investors trust companies that follow it, and regulators everywhere use it as their benchmark for what good looks like.
And believe me, this isn't some dusty document that just sits on a shelf. Boards use this rulebook in super practical ways. They use it as a benchmark to write their own internal rules. They use it to question their own assumptions, to ask those tough questions like, hey, are we actually being fair to all our shareholders? It's a tool for looking in the mirror and spotting weaknesses before they blow up into full-blown crises. But a rulebook only gets you so far. Beyond the written rules, there are these deeply held beliefs about how a board should act. Let's dive into 5 competing mindsets that you'll find battling it out in pretty much every boardroom. This slide really gets to the heart of a fundamental debate. On one side, you've got agency theory. It basically operates with a healthy dose of skepticism. It assumes managers might do what's best for them, not the company, so the board's job is to be a watchdog. But on the other side, you have stewardship theory. This one's all about trust. It sees managers as dedicated stewards who should be empowered to do their jobs. It's the ultimate showdown, really. Control versus trust. But wait, there's more. The stakeholder model says, hey, it's not just about shareholders. What about employees, customers, the whole community? Then there's resource dependency theory, which sees the board itself as a strategic weapon, a treasure trove of connections and expertise. And finally, institutional theory just acknowledges that, hey, sometimes companies adopt practices just to fit in with what the market expects. The truth is, most boards are a complex cocktail of all these competing ideas. So, that's a lot of theory. How does any of this actually translate into action? Well, boards have a modern toolkit of frameworks and models to put these ideas to work. Let's open it up and see what's inside. First up, the risk governance model. In today's world, this is absolutely non-negotiable. It's the board's radar system, a structured way to make sure the company isn't flying blind straight into a storm. It's all about seeing what's coming around the corner, whether it's a cyber attack or a global supply chain shock. And this is not some academic exercise. In the boardroom, they're asking these exact questions. Is our list of potential disasters, our risk register, actually up to date? Are we, the board, personally looking at the big ones, like geopolitical risk? And crucially, have we stress tested our plans? Like, what happens if our biggest factory goes offline tomorrow? These are the questions that keep a company out of the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Another critical tool in the kit is the ESG or sustainability governance model. And this one reflects a massive shift in how we think about business. It's no longer enough to just mention climate change in a press release. Today, these issues are at the very heart of the board strategy, right there alongside profits and losses. So, what does this actually look like? Well, the board makes sure that a huge climate risk isn't siloed in some separate green report. No, it's right there in the main company risk register next to all the financial and operational stuff. They make sure the company is being totally transparent in its reporting. And, this is a big one, that it actually has the systems to collect that data accurately in the first place. Okay, so we've got the global rulebook, the competing mindsets, and the modern tools. How in the world do you put this all together to build a real-world governance system from the ground up? Well, here's the blueprint. All right, this slide is basically the whole shebang. It starts with a solid foundation, a clear charter based on those global principles we talked about. Then you assemble the right team, a board with a diverse mix of skills and truly independent voices. You delegate the detailed work to specialized committees, you build a strong process for managing risk, and you commit to being transparent. But here's the most important part. You have to plug all of this into the company's actual strategy. Good governance isn't just a compliance exercise, it's what allows the company to hit its goals. And it's never done. It's a constant cycle of monitoring, evaluating, and getting better. This brings us to the ultimate question. After all this structure, all these rules, what's the point? Is this whole thing just about avoiding trouble, or is there something more to it? This quote right here captures a huge shift in thinking. Governance is not just a bunch of rules to keep the company out of jail, it's a strategic advantage. The best governance systems don't just prevent failure, they actively fuel success, they spark innovation, and they create real long-term value. So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Is corporate governance just a safety net? A complex web of rules designed to catch a company when it falls? Or is it something more powerful? Is it actually the springboard that gives a company the stability and the confidence it needs to take those bold leaps that lead to incredible success? Honestly, how a company answers that question is what separates the ones that just survive from the ones that truly thrive.